Well, hello everybody and welcome to Lunch Break Live. Real talk about obesity, food addiction, recovery, and what's really eating you. I am Carrie De La Cruz here with you today on a fine Tuesday afternoon in Southern California where the sun is actually shining. I'm sorry if it's not shining for you guys, but just know that rain is in the forecast on Thursday. So all things being equal, there will be balance in the weather conditions. So if you're not watching me on a Tuesday afternoon and perhaps are in New Zealand, let's say, watching me on a Wednesday morning, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching me on demand, I do hope, because this is a follow-up program to yesterday's show, I do hope that you guys watched yesterday's program, which was a little wacky. All right, and once again, I have to move this thing at my feet. What the heck? Everything moved. That's all I can tell you. You know, we love to say that, things remain the same unless they change. And, well, apparently they changed because they are very much not the same. Anyway, let's see. Did I say the part about I'm Carrie De La Cruz? Yes, I did. Did I welcome you in? Yes, I did. I see hearts floating by. I see people here. Familiar faces. Sarah, Mama, glad you're here. So listen, today's show, what I put out there was, hey, put it on my wall today. I'm like, what do you guys want to talk about? Your input, my output. Initially, I got a lot of likes, and I was really afraid that I was going to have to talk about likes, which I really didn't want to do. Fortunately, Nancy came in and saved the day by playing devil's advocate, admittedly, and asking me some clarifying questions about the program from yesterday. And so I took a stab at answering it in my inimitable fashion, which is to say that I may not think about this like others do, and certainly not the way most of you do. But if you do start thinking like me, again, I say to you, I'm either very grateful or very apologetic. So with that said, let me address this. All right. So Nancy asked me some questions about yesterday's show. She said, and again, this is from the perspective of the devil's advocate, which only means that she is the devil, but she knows it. She's okay with it. She said, and I'm going to call this balance versus abstinence. Isn't balance the opposite of abstinence? People talk about everything in moderation, but with food addiction, how does that work? So that's the first part. Second part is what I'm calling scale versus pants. She basically said, you're either looking at a number on the scale or a number on your pants. I don't really see a difference, okay? So let me start with the idea of balance, because in talking about scales and in talking about life in general, I will often use the term balance as something that we are seeking in our lives, because to me, balance represents peace. You know, it's like calm waters. They say, water seeks its lowest level. Well, it's like we want things to be balanced so that we're not constantly fighting a storm. We're not constantly trying to recover from an extreme this way or that way. So we do endeavor to achieve balance in our lives. Now, here's what I wrote. Okay, let me start with this idea and how that pertains, how balance pertains to the idea of moderation or abstinence. Now, as always, again, I'm going on record here. This is my opinion. So if my explanation fits, please feel free to wear it. If it doesn't, just leave it, but don't go away. Hang on, because my next point may fit you a little bit better. And if they both fit, yay team. All right, either way, you don't want to miss the next point. So let's start with this point. If balance, now I'm going to kind of go out there with like a logical statement. If balance is achieving something like equanimity, where all things being measured are in agreement with one another, so no single thing, okay, in other words, takes precedence over another, and nothing fights against or is a stronger presence than anything else, okay? So equanimity or equanimity, right? All things are represented in a fairly equal quantity. So that's like my logical statement saying that if balance is achieving equanimity, then everything that is represented, whatever that may be, whatever's being represented on this scale is in equal parts, or to a degree where nothing takes precedence or fights with another thing. And you know what they say, like, what weighs more, a ton of feathers or a ton of bricks? Well, they both weigh the same thing because it's a ton. It just happens that you need more feathers than you need bricks. So in other words, on your scale, if you're weighing like feathers and bricks, well, the bricks are going to, you're going to have far fewer bricks than you have feathers to achieve that balance. So you may need more feathers in your life. I don't know where that came from, but that's just the truth. I don't make this stuff up. So anyway, all things are represented in fairly equal quantity, right? Do you guys, I don't know, do you agree with that assessment there? And hi, Melissa, I'm glad you're here, and Nina. Okay. So Nancy, okay, I'm going out to you on this one, babe. As a self-described recovering food addict, you called yourself that, not me. Remember, I don't call people addicts. You addressed the question of balance, and you asked, lick my fingers, if it wasn't the opposite of abstinence, because balance might imply everything in moderation. So you were saying, like, they say everything in moderation, but that seems to fly in the face of abstinence, right? And so everything in moderation is how you are interpreting balance, right? Okay. First of all, everything is in what? That's my question that I'm throwing out there. Everything as in what? Is everything on the table or just some things? Okay. From a strictly food perspective, that's how I'm going to address this first, because of course I am a recovering food addict as well. If my life is imbalanced when I eat certain things on my list, but is balanced when I avoid them, then I am moderating my intake, what I eat, to achieve and maintain balance. Okay? So what I am choosing to eat, I do so in moderation to achieve and maintain balance. What I abstain from to achieve balance might be very different than from what others abstain from, what you abstain from in order to achieve balance. So again, I'm addressing specifically at this point the food addict, the recovering food addict we have problems with some things and maybe not all things, right? Okay. So other people may not need to abstain from those things that I abstain from in order to achieve and maintain balance in their lives. Okay. Either way, I think we all have to moderate whatever that is in order to achieve and maintain balance. Okay. Let's see. I don't think it's necessarily a logical conclusion that moderation means everything. Okay. So in other words, if you're doing like one of those little logical, what do they call those, Venn diagrams? It's like everything, moderation does not necessarily mean everything. It just means whatever it is that everything is defined as in your life needs to be in moderation. So, okay, let me not go off script because I wrote this out very carefully to make sure I didn't blow it. Let's see here. So I don't think it's necessarily a logical conclusion that moderation means everything, or if it does, perhaps it could mean moderation in everything that you need to achieve balance so that nothing is given too much power. So whatever your everything looks like, which will be different from my everything, should be moderated, okay, should be managed so that you can achieve balance in your life, in your eating, with your treatment of your addiction, okay? I don't think balance and abstinence are mutually exclusive, and I don't think abstinence cannot agree with moderation. So that is my logical conclusion. I don't know if you agree. It's okay if you don't, but that's where I think some food addicts or addicts in general can get easily derailed when someone comes back to them and just says, oh yeah, well, everything in moderation, I don't believe in abstinence. But those two things don't necessarily exclude one from the other, if that makes sense, okay? Because what I choose to consume in moderation happens to be things that are not on my abstinence list. So I can remain abstinent, and everything I choose to partake of is done in moderation. So those two things don't have to exclude one another. I hope that makes sense. So I moderate what works for me to achieve balance. I'm imbalanced when I don't moderate certain foods, which requires abstinence. You may have to write that one down. You may have to replay this and reread it to make sense, but I'll say it one more time. I moderate what works for me to achieve balance. I'm imbalanced when I don't moderate certain foods, which requires abstinence. Okay, so that's my answer to that. Now, if I take food out of the realm, then balance means whatever I choose to do in my life, however I choose to spend my time. All right, so this would be represented through what? A moderation of my efforts. It's up to me to manage and maintain and moderate my efforts, whatever they are, however I choose to spend my time, whatever I choose to do, right? We know that people who, spend all of their lives at work to the exclusion of their family, their health, their spiritual life, whatever, they're not in balance. They're imbalanced. They're heavily weighted toward work or their professional career, right? Likewise, if they spend all their time in the gym, then they are not in balance in the totality of their lives. So therefore, they're not demonstrating moderation in all things that are included in their own lives, all right? So I moderate to achieve and maintain balance, which might mean abstaining from certain behaviors like, now I've talked to you guys about this, I'm a recovering shopaholic, so this may require me to abstain from going to the mall frequently because it's like I'm setting myself up for what we would call a slip, okay? Opening new credit cards, buying clothes just because they fit. Now let me just address that one really quickly, because when we lose weight, it becomes like we get like a rush. It's like a high to go shopping. Certainly in areas of the store we never shopped before, certainly on racks that we never approached before because they have a number that we're not familiar with, and it's a high. I mean, we just get a buzz, right? Well, some people don't stop and they just keep buying and buying and buying because it fits. But at some point, you have to begin to model or demonstrate or exhibit moderation in that behavior. So for example, I had to stop buying things just because they fit or just because I looked good in them. Like I was shopping this weekend, it's really funny, at the racetrack of all places. Don't ask, it's really bizarre. But let's just say the stuff that was there was remarkable. It was like it was made for me. It was really cool. And I was trying things on and that was like a really good feeling. And the lady was like, how do you stop from buying everything? Everything just looks so good on you. Oh gosh, what that does for the ego, what that does for the soul, the head, the woo, it starts to swell and you're like, oh my gosh, she's telling me everything looks so good on me. And I said, you see, I have to apply my fabulous, fabulous rule. If it's not a fabulous price and it doesn't look fabulous, then I don't get it. And by the way, if I don't need it, it's not coming home with me as a rule. Okay? So I have to exhibit moderation in my behaviors, in my spending and purchasing behaviors, that just because something fits or looks good does not mean it comes home with me. See, everything in moderation, everything that I buy needs to happen in moderation. And guess what? There may be certain things I can't buy because I don't exhibit moderation when I do that. Okay? All right, let's see here. I guess I would call it moderation or management, or managing your moderation. Okay, so all things in moderation, and I put this in caps, is better served by saying moderation in all things. Don't you think? All things in moderation. That's a problem for me. Moderation in all things being whatever I choose to do, whatever I choose to eat, however I choose to spend my time, the behaviors that I choose, even my emotions, or what I want to feed. Moderation in all things. Does that change your definition? Does that contradict with your definition of abstinence? That's what I want to know, Nancy, so I'm throwing that out there. So whatever you choose, foods, behaviors, thoughts, to attain and maintain balance have to be managed through moderation. And that's how I address that. Next, scale versus pants. Man, you kept me hopping, woman. That Nancy, I can always depend upon you to keep me on my toes and keep me honest. All right, there are numbers on the scale and there are numbers on your pants. We both agree. We all agree on that, right? Even if we can't read the numbers, they're there. Okay, I know they're printing them smaller now. I don't understand that either, but they're there. Okay. Unless they cut the tag out and you bought it at the thrift shop, in which case if it fits, you just take it home and you don't worry about what size it is, right? It's a good feeling that. So you asked the difference between size and weight. In other words, I think you're still focusing on something either way. That's kind of what you're saying. It's like, well, I'm either focusing on the scale or the size on my pants, right? How does that differ? Not so fast. Do the numbers, this is honesty time for honesty. Do the numbers on the scale change or are they constant? I don't mean the numbers that are printed on the scale. I mean when you stand on the scale. Are the numbers constant? Will you always, always, always see the same number on the scale, or is it subject to change? So, is it consistent or is it subject to change? They change. You probably answered that. but they change. Okay, so scale can change. Now, number on the size of the pants that are hanging in your closet or are in your drawer. Can the number on your pants change? I didn't ask if you could buy a different size. I said, does the number that is printed on the tag, whether you can read it or not, change, or is it constant? The number is constant. So the number never changes on the pants. Maybe you change how you fit the pants, but the pants do not change the way they fit, all right? So if you get on the scale, you want to see how the number changed or didn't. That's why you do it. Did the number change or not? And some of us get a buzz from the number not changing. And some of us get, high when the number changed and it gets smaller. And then some of us get low when the number gets bigger. Okay? It's like a mood altering drug, the scale. All right? Now, so you get on the scale to see if it changed or if it didn't. When you put your pants on, do you do it to see if the size changed? I'm going to put my pants on this morning. Am I doing it to see if the size changed? No. I expect them to fit. And I don't need to look at the number on the tag to make sure they're still going to fit because they're still the same size. So I do not look at the tag to see what size it is before I put them on. I know my pants. You guys know the clothes in your closet. You know how certain things fit. You don't need to look at the number on the tag unless you're trying to get a high. That's what I think. That, and if you're trying to get a buzz off it, like, woo, I can't believe how small that number is. Woo. Okay, but it didn't change. All right, it's printed on there for a reason and not in invisible or disappearing ink. All right, when I put on my pants, I do not look at the size because I know how they're going to fit. And guess what? Yeah, I have clothes that kind of fit a small variation in pounds. I know when I put on a couple of pounds, I'm going to have to go up into these pants here. I don't look at the number to see what size they are. I just know what pants they are. Okay, and when I drop a few pounds, I know that these pants are going to look better and feel better on me. I know. I don't need to look at the number to see if they're going to fit. If the smaller pants, whatever the number is, don't fit, then I'm going to have to go into those other pants until I can fit back into those pants. I mean, that's just the way it is. Where does the scale fit into that? I'm asking you again. All right. So once I buy the clothes, I know the size, and like most women, I have clothes for different weights. All right. We all do. Let's see here. No matter what size they are, I know the size when I buy them. Or maybe I don't if I bought them at the thrift shop and the tag's cut out. But if they fit and they look good on me, I buy them. All right. So does that make sense? I guess that's what I'm kind of making my point, my logical point. Is that the scale moves and the size on your clothes does not. So I use my pants as a unit of measure or a gauge. Really, it's a gauge to determine if what I'm doing is maintaining what? Balance, or is imbalanced due to the foods that I'm eating or my activity, my behaviors. Right? If the pants don't fit, there's probably a reason for that. And that's because there's imbalance in my life for whatever reason. So I think there might be an error in logic, in other words, to compare clothing size to a scale because they're used in different ways. And maybe one, hint, hint, the scale is used in a way that was never intended. So rather than using the scale to deliver a number, we use it to deliver judgment. Or an assessment. It's up to us. Here's the thing. We use it to tell us if we're good or bad, to tell us if we're in balance or not. We use that scale the way it was not intended to be used, all right? I think it's up to us to assess the meaning of the number, whether it's on the scale or on the clothes, right? It's up to us to assess, what does that mean? Does that make us a good or bad person? No. It might mean our lives are imbalanced, and it's up to us to reclaim that balance either through abstinence or moderation in the things, in the everything in our lives, I guess you could say. So ultimately it depends on how you're using the data on the scale and if you're consulting your pants on a regular basis to see if the size on the label has changed. Come on, you guys, it didn't. So those are my answers to Nancy's very difficult questions. I am eager to hear if you disagree with me or if you have some challenges for me where you're like, oh yeah, I don't think you thought of this, or well, what about this? Bring it on, I'm ready. I'm always open to expanding my thinking, especially from a logical standpoint, so that I can do a better job of doing what it is that I do. So I hope that made sense. And I am going to My mom said something to me, and I don't know, and no. Okay, maybe she's talking to somebody else. Let me put my glasses on and try not to have my phone tip over, because it's doing its darndest to tip over on me today. Happy to see so many faces here today, guys. And I love you too, Mama. So Sarah and Melissa and Nina and Marlene, I haven't seen you in a while, and Priscilla and Marcus. Praying for you, buddy. Praying for you. I know you're going through rough times. Take care of yourself. Let's see. I think, okay, here's Melissa. I think this topic is where linguistics can get in the way. Yes. Sometimes words are hard, and trying to use them to explain emotion or mental state can be challenging. Absolutely. And I think sometimes we need to take a step back and say, how am I interpreting this word? How am I hearing this word that someone else may be hearing in a completely different way? Am I hearing it in a healthy way or an unhealthy way? Do I need to change the words that I'm using so that I can begin to behave in a more healthy way? So let's see here. Everybody, hi, and love that. Love that. Moderish. Moderish. Well, you know, it's a work in progress, right? I'm seeing new friends coming in, but I won't call you out unless you comment to me. Do I do this every day? Yes, I do, Priscilla. I surely do. Well, every weekday to the best of my ability. And it's 12:30 my time on the West Coast, 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 East Time, whatever that is, whether it's daylight savings time or whether it's standard time, which I think we're in right now, we're in standard. And it's 9:30 currently the next day in New Zealand. So Marcus, how is my Wednesday going to be, buddy? I need to know if it's going to be a good Wednesday. All right. So let's see, Nancy, there you are, you troublemaker. Those were great answers, and it helps me understand where you're coming from. Oh my gosh, so I defended myself? I mean, that's really... Am I okay? I'm kidding. I hope you get to hear it in a different way, or maybe it makes sense to you differently as well. I really hope. Hey, Dr. Matt's here. Are you still here? Or did you just pop your head in to see what the heck I was talking about and leave? I hope you're still here. I haven't seen you in a long time. It's been almost a year, it feels like. All righty. I think that's about it. You're hungry, Priscilla. You crack me up. All right. Yes, it does make sense to me in a different way. Yeah, I think really recovery is about learning to see things in a different way, to consider things differently than we did, because we certainly know how much trouble we got into when we thought about things the same way, right? And, you know, we try things on, and sometimes they fit us and sometimes they don't. And so if you find something in my programs, if you found something in today's show that you might be able to try on to see if it gives you a little bit more freedom in your life and you begin to experience more serenity, that is the goal. That is my whole purpose for doing this show. My whole goal. My goal is not to get you to lose weight. My goal is not to make you skinny. You know, my goal is to help you achieve that balance through moderation of whatever it is that is a part of your life that you allow into your life. And if it's unhealthy, I hope you moderate it right on out. And that would address something that I can't remember who it was that made a comment on my wall about doing things that are unhealthy behaviors as in direct response to stress. Well, we all know that if we are doing something unhealthy in response to stress, life is all about stress. We have to stop allowing that unhealthy behavior to be an option, to be an answer, to be how it is that we address the stress in our lives. And I will talk about that later. So I'm going to leave you guys there. It looks like Dr. Matt came and went, but it was nice to have him here for that moment. And I hope I was saying something really profound. Gosh. Probably not. That's why I didn't stay. Anyway, you guys, thanks for being here. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And as ever, please give me some suggestions about stuff you want to talk about, like Nancy did today. And like, oh, it was Hope. Hope put something on my wall to think about. So bring it on, guys. Give me some information, because how do I know if what I'm talking about is making sense to you guys? How do I know, especially if people don't tune in and I see the numbers are off and I'm like, wow, was it me or was it them? Or was it the time of day or was it what I was wearing? How would I know unless you guys give me feedback? So you are so welcome, Priscilla. Thank you for being here. Otherwise, I would just be doing this for me. So I am really grateful that you guys are here. And let's create, you know, a recovery army, you know, an army of people who are fighting the good fight for themselves, fighting to achieve peace. Sounds kind of crazy, doesn't it? I'm on board if you are. I'm going to sign off now and remind you all to have courage, seek peace, embrace joy, and above all, Live your recovery. Remember, you can't stop feeding what's eating you if you don't know what's eating you. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Mwah. Bye.